Are you thinking about moving to Dorado Hills, but you're trying to wrap your mind around what it will actually cost to live here? Have you heard that most of the homes in Dorado Hills come in subdivisions, which have their own fees like HOA fees and Mello Roos taxes, but you're trying to make sense of it all? Then this video is for you. I'm gonna go over home prices, property taxes, gas prices, and all the utilities, what they cost, and who to use. And at the end, I'm gonna go over all the costs associated with buying in a subdivision or gated community so you know exactly what it will cost you to live in Dorado Hills. So be sure to stick around to the end for that. As a bonus, I'll go over some of the things to think about when buying a new construction home because we have a lot of new construction in Dorado Hills. All right, now let's get stuck right into the cost of living in Dorado Hills, California. First up, home prices. Look, if you're thinking about moving here, you're probably thinking about buying a home. Now, Dorado Hills is a unique community in Dorado County in that it offers luxury living in the foothills, but that does come at a cost. So what do houses actually cost in Dorado Hills? Well, as of the making of this video, the average closed price for a home in Dorado Hills, California is just north of $1,060,000. Now, what do you get for that money? Well, you get a home that is about 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2,500 to 3,000 square feet on 0.07 to about a half of an acre in really great condition. Now, of course, it goes up from there to mind-blowingly gorgeous luxury homes depending on your budget. Now look, if you don't have $1 million to spend, does that mean that there's nothing here for you? Well, thankfully, no. The bottom of the market is around $550,000, and that'll get you around a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home, 1,000 to 1,300 square feet that needs some updating and repairs. Now, anything below that $550,000 mark is likely gonna need a lot of repairs and updating and require a cash buyer to get it done. Property taxes. All right, your base rate for property taxes here is 1%, but there are always special assessment taxes. You know, $30 for the library, $100 for the fire service, $50 for the schools, etc. So in order to account for those, I recommend ballparking your property taxes at 1.25% of the purchase price of your home in Dorado Hills. If you're doing this for the purposes of calculating your monthly mortgage payment, then you're simply going to multiply 0.0125 times the purchase price of your home and divide the result by 12. That'll give you the amount to add to your payment for your property taxes. Now, of course, there are things that can adjust your property taxes upwards, things like Mello Roos taxes, and I'll go over those later in the video in a section specific to the cost of owning in a subdivision or gated community in Dorado Hills. So be sure to stick around for that. Hey, if you're thinking about moving here and by the end of this video you still aren't sure if Dorado Hills is right for you, then feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below. I've been selling homes here for 19 years and I've helped hundreds of families just like yours. I have people reaching out every day and I'm always happy to help. Now, on to gas prices. Gasoline prices. Now look, you know these vary wildly and they can be a point of heated debate. It seems like you can measure our cultural stress level by what we're paying at the pump. So we all know these prices are only good for the day I shot the video. But to give you an idea, as of now, March of 2024, I'm paying between $4.31 a gallon and $5.09 a gallon at the pump depending on where I go. Now remember, the gas stations at town center usually tend to be higher than most of the other ones in town. I've lived in the foothills a good long time, so I know where to hit up the cheap gas stations, and our nearest Costco for cheap gas is just down the hill in Folsom. At only a 10-minute drive and $4.25 a gallon today, it's worth the extra few minutes drive. Next up is propane and natural gas. Now, most of Dorado County doesn't have natural gas available to them, and they are all on propane, but Dorado Hills is the exception to that, with many houses having piped natural gas to the home provided by PG&E. Now, if you're coming from a city, then you're familiar with how natural gas works. It's piped to the home, and you're charged based on your metered usage, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. However, there are still quite a few houses in Dorado Hills that run on propane. And if you're used to the relatively low cost of natural gas, then the cost of propane might come as a shock to you. As of today, the cost of propane from my service provider is $2.95 a gallon. Now, there's a lot to unpack with propane, and once you live here, there's a lot of ways you can save money and make it cheaper for yourself, so let's go through those together now. First of all, you need to decide whether you want to own or lease your propane tank. Now, most people here are using a 250-gallon above ground tank, but there are other options, including tanks that can be buried underground, which many people in Dorado Hills choose because they don't want to look at the tank. These tanks are usually sitting in a side yard or a backyard. Now, if you own the tank outright, the benefit is you can call around to all the gas companies and choose the one with the lowest rate that day to fill your tank. The con, of course, is that you have to leak check it, safety check it, maintain it, and remember to fill it all on your own. The other option is to lease your tank. Now, we pay about $75 a year, and for this, they leak check the tank, safety check the tank, and maintain the tank for us, so I don't have to worry about it. The other decision to make is, do you want to be filled on demand, meaning only when you call, or be on a regular top-off route? Now the con of the regular top-off route is that they fill your tank automatically when it gets down to about 35%. So conceivably there's 35% of the gas in your tank that you've paid for but will never use. The con with on-demand is that you have to be paying attention and get your tank filled when it needs it. And if you aren't paying attention and your tank runs out, which let me tell you only ever happens on the weekend, then if you can even get a fill, you have to pay for emergency rates. And that cost can wipe out any savings from having been on on-demand in the first place. I'll be honest with you, when I first moved here, I was an on-demand fill customer because I didn't like the idea of having gas in the tank that I paid for and would never use. But I messed up so many times and had to go a cold weekend without the heater and no hot water that I finally gave up. I am now a leased tank regular top-off route customer, and I never have to worry about propane again. They fill it automatically, leave me a bill on the door, and I don't have to stress about it. Does it cost me a few extra bucks? Probably, but it's well worth it. Now remember that propane costs a lot more in the winter than in the summer, so be sure to have your tank topped off before the winter rates hit. Now to put it in perspective, I spend about $1,700 to $2,100 a year on propane, but that isn't evenly spread out month to month. Most of that cost comes between November and March. Hey, if you've made it this far and you're getting anything at all out of this video, hit the like button, click subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another video with crucial information about moving to Dorado County. PG&E. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, trying to interpret my PG&E bill and all their tiers and rates makes my head explode. So I don't tend to get real granular with the bill in that way. But what I can tell you is that in the winter, when we're heating with propane, our bill tends to be $80 to $100 a month. And in the summer, because it gets hot, and I hate being hot, so I run the AC a fair bit, our bills are gonna be about $300 in June, $500 in July, and $600 in August, and then they start coming back down for our family in September. Again, your mileage may vary depending on what you do at the thermostat. But the thing to note here is that PG&E power is relatively expensive power for the state of California. If you're used to a Southern California Edison rate, or our neighbors just to the west in Sacramento, a SMUD rate, then the cost of PG&E might blow your hair back a bit, so it's best to familiarize yourself with it now and plan accordingly. Water. Okay, up here in the foothills, you're gonna either be outside of town and be on a well, which is essentially free except for a little electricity to run the pump, or you're gonna be inside one of our cities or towns and you're gonna be on a public water district. Now in general, there's 3 public water districts you might deal with: El Dorado Irrigation District, or EID, Placerville City Water, or the Georgetown Public Utilities District, or GPUD. Now for the purposes of this video, we're focusing on El Dorado Hills, and most of El Dorado Hills is on EID water, so we're just gonna talk about the cost of EID. You get metered on the water coming in, and you get 2 separate charges on that water, one for the water and one for the sewer as the water goes out. But the water going out isn't metered, so they base your sewer charge on the amount of water coming in. Now we had some ailing infrastructure, so over about a 4-year period, they raised our rates considerably. Now to give you an idea, you're billed every 2 months for water, and for our family of 4 irrigating nothing in the yard outside, we run about $350 every 2 months. Now your mileage again may vary depending on how you're watering, but this gives you an idea to work with. Now we have been informed that the rates are gonna go up again soon, so it is gonna get more expensive in the near term. Now in El Dorado Hills, there are some of the subdivisions that provide front yard maintenance as part of your HOA fees, and some of them are using recycled water provided by the community to do that, which can save you a little bit of money on your water bill if you happen to purchase in one of those communities. If you're sensitive to water costs, you may want to buy a little outside the city so that you can get a home that's on a well. Now there aren't many of these in El Dorado Hills, but they do exist. If you really want to make sure you're on a well, you may want to consider going further east up the hill to our communities of Cameron Park, or Shingle Springs, or Placerville. Now at the end, I'll put a link to a pros and cons playlist that will give you information on those communities as well, so you can make your choice. Garbage. For this, you'll be using El Dorado Disposal, and it's a 3-roller can system: a black top one for garbage, a yellow top one for recycle, and a green top one that you can use for yard waste or compost. Now it's going to be billed every 2 months, and it's going to cost you around $80 to $90 every 2 months, depending on how many cans you choose and the size of the cans you choose. All right, now for some fees specific to El Dorado Hills, at least within El Dorado County. As you head east up Highway 50 towards Tahoe, you're gonna find communities that have less and less subdivisions in them, and thus less and less HOAs and less HOA fees. El Dorado Hills has our largest concentration of subdivisions anywhere in the county, and they come with their own HOA fees, so it's important to touch on those fees here. We have Serrano, Blackstone, Heritage, and Marina Hills, just to name a few. And they all have their own fee structures, and to go over each individual one would be way too long of a video. So if you have one of these communities you're specifically interested in and you want the full fee structure, feel free to reach out to me directly and I'll get that to you. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to give you a range of fees here so you can get an idea of what it will cost you to live in a subdivision or gated community. As of today, there are 118 homes for sale in El Dorado Hills, and of those, 89 of them have HOA fees. Now, those fees range from a low of $42 to a high of $315 per month, but in some of the new construction communities, they can be $400 a month or more. Now, of those 89 listings, many of them are going to be new construction, and buying new construction is a totally different buying experience, with different contracts and different rules about canceling transactions and getting deposit back. In general, it's very hard to do either of those things on new construction. Now, there's so much involved in buying new construction that I'll do an entire video on that for you, but it's important to know here that there are far more extra fees involved in buying new construction than just the HOA fees. There are also sometimes additional clubhouse, dining, or golf fees in some of these communities, and in our 55 and over communities, they often charge a fee for classes and community events. Some of the HOAs even charge a 1% transfer fee, which means when you sell the home, you have to pay a 1% of the purchase price fee back to the HOA, which greatly increases your cost of sale if you purchase in that community. Like I said, there's so much information to go over when it comes to buying new construction that I'll have to do an entire video on that for you. But most buyers don't know that you can absolutely bring in your own buyer's agent to represent you and negotiate on your behalf when buying new construction, and that it's a good idea to do so. But there is a catch. Most, if not all, new construction communities require you to bring your agent with you on the first visit to the community and to register them as your agent on that visit. Otherwise, you forego the opportunity to have an agent negotiate on your behalf and get you the best terms and incentives when buying new construction. So if you're thinking about going that route, reach out to me right away so we can go together to look at those homes. All right, the last item on our list is Mello Roos taxes. Mello Roos taxes are simply a way for property developers to pass on the cost of community infrastructure like sidewalks, sewers, and streetlights to the eventual buyers of the homes when they build a subdivision. Now, not all homes in El Dorado Hills have Mello Roos taxes, but most of them do, and they vary per builder and subdivision. Mello Roos taxes are often measured in the multiple thousands of dollars, and they can be levied against your property in more than one tax assessment. Now, they can add as much as $500 to $1,000 to your monthly mortgage payment. So once you look at the community you're interested in and you add up the cost of your payment, the HOA fees, and the Mello Roos fees, you may find that that particular community and its associated fees pushes you beyond your financial comfort zone. If that's a concern for you, then be sure to ask me about the HOA fees and the Mello Roos taxes for any home you're interested in before we book a showing, so we can rule out any of them that might push your payment comfort. All right, that wraps up our breakdown of the cost of living in El Dorado Hills, and I hope this information helps you prepare for your move here. But of course, the cost of living in El Dorado Hills doesn't really matter at all if you don't know if El Dorado Hills is the right place for you and your family or not. So to figure that out, click this video right here on the pros and cons of living in El Dorado Hills. And if you saw anything in this video that made you think El Dorado Hills might not be the right place, but you want to check out some of our other foothills communities, click this playlist right here on the pros and cons of our other communities. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.